Hello everyone, and welcome back to Stamps Old World UK, your #1 destination for exploring the beautiful, fascinating, and sometimes perplexing world of stamps. I'm your host, and today's video is going to be especially interesting. We're diving deep into the modern marketplace for stamps, exploring what makes a stamp valuable today, what collectors are willing to pay, and what you should know if you are buying or selling in the current global market. Let's get started. In today's stamp market, value is determined by a combination of rarity, condition, age, demand, and provenance. A stamp might be printed in enormous numbers, but if only a few survive in near-perfect condition, that stamp can command high prices. Collectors today are very particular about centering, perforations, color fidelity, gum condition, and even whether a stamp has been restored at all. A century-old stamp with a tear, hinge remnant, or poor centering will often be worth a fraction of what the same stamp would fetch in very fine, fresh condition. It's this rigorous attention to detail that separates modest values from serious investment-level prices. Another critical driver of value right now is provenance. If a stamp has been part of a famous collection, owned by a well-known philatelist, or has appeared in major auctions, that history significantly boosts its appeal. Collectors not only buy stamps, they buy stories. A rare error, a misprint, or a plate variety with documentation can make a stamp a centerpiece item and push its value well into thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. Recently, many stamps once considered ordinary are being re-examined under new research, new catalogs, and even forensic methods like spectroscopy or ultraviolet light. These techniques are revealing previously overlooked details, watermarks, paper types, subtle color shifts that can turn a common stamp into a collectible treasure. Age on its own, however, is no guarantee of high value. It's the condition of the stamp, the number still in existence, and how much collectors want it that matters. For example, many early stamps, mid-19th century or older, did not survive well, or survived only in very poor condition, which limits what is available to collectors today. Demand also fluctuates. Some countries, some issues, some thematic designs are more in vogue. A stamp depicting a historically famous person, or commemorating an important event, or printed in a stamp-poor country tends to draw more attention. On the other hand, more common issues, even if quite old, might trade at modest prices because so many are already in collectors' hands. Let's talk numbers. As of today, stamps in excellent condition from highly sought-after issues can fetch prices in the range of US $2,000 to $50,000 or more, depending on rarity, condition, and demand. Let me give you a few examples. A classic 1856 issue from Central America in mint condition recently sold for $12,000 because only a handful remain, and its paper and design have been verified to be original. Another example, a mid-1800s British error stamp in superb condition recently fetched $30,000 at auction. On the more moderate side, a nicely preserved early 20th century commemorative or classic definitive stamp might sell for $50 to $2,000, depending on condition, scarcity, and collector interest. Even modern stamps, think limited editions or special printing errors, can price into the low or mid-hundreds or thousands of dollars, especially with collectors willing to pay for unique colors, varieties, modern errors, or first-day covers. For those of you thinking about buying or investing, here are some key tips. Always request condition photos and preferably a certificate of authenticity for high-value stamps. Seek to purchase from reputable dealers or auction houses. When possible, have stamps professionally graded. Grades from authoritative grading services give buyers peace of mind and tend to raise market value. Do your research. Track recent auction results, monitor price catalogs, and watch what similar stamps are selling for. Don't pay blindly for age or rarity alone. Ensure the specimen you are buying has the traits collectors demand. Clean surface, good margins, bright color, undamaged perforations, etc. If you are selling, presentation matters. Clean mounts, careful lighting, detailed descriptions, high-resolution close-ups of front, back, any flaws, and any official certification can significantly help. Setting realistic reserve prices, informed by the last few sales of comparable items, will attract interest. Many of the highest stamp sale records come from rare errors, misprints, or stamps from countries undergoing major historical events. Keep those kinds of stamps in mind if you are searching collections, estate sales, or old accumulations. Here's a look ahead. The stamp market continues to evolve. Digital auctions, online marketplaces, and international bidding make it easier than ever for rare stamps to reach global collectors. At the same time, counterfeiters and altered stamps are also more sophisticated, so verification becomes even more critical. New research into printing techniques, paper types, watermarks, and color variants is constantly reshaping what collectors consider rare or desirable. What was once deemed common may now be valued more highly if new evidence emerges. So, in conclusion, the stamp market in today's dollars can be wildly variable. Some stamps bring in just a few dollars or tens of dollars. Others bring in tens of thousands or more. But across all value levels, the same principles apply: authenticity, condition, rarity, documentation, and demand. Whether you're buying your first rare stamp or considering selling something from your collection, always take time to research, and don't rush. The rewards are there, but they come to those who prepare.
Next up, the most iconic American stamps, the Benjamin Franklin 50-cent blue issue, and discuss not just its history, but also its current market value in today's dollar terms. If you've ever wondered how much these stamps are worth and what drives their value, you are in the right place. So let's get started. The Benjamin Franklin stamp is one of the most recognizable classic American issues. Franklin, being one of the founding fathers of the United States and also the very first Postmaster General, is an enduring figure in the history of postal services. His portrait has appeared on many early American stamps, but the 50-cent blue issue stands out for its striking design, bold color, and the high face value it represented at the time. This was not a stamp that ordinary people would use every day. A 50-cent stamp in the late 19th and early 20th century was the equivalent of a large sum of money, typically used for packages, registered letters, or heavy mail. That already tells us something important. These stamps were printed in smaller numbers compared to low-value issues, which makes surviving examples today more desirable for collectors. Now, when we talk about value, there are several things we must consider: rarity, condition, demand, and provenance. With the Benjamin Franklin 50-cent blue stamp, condition plays a huge role. If you have one that is mint, never hinged, with its original gum intact, bright coloring, and perfectly centered, the value can jump significantly compared to a used or poorly centered specimen. Stamps that have tears, creases, faded colors, or heavy cancellations might still be collectible, but will fetch only a fraction of the price. So, how much is a stamp like this worth today? In today's market, depending on condition and whether the stamp is mint or used, values can range from as little as $50 for a common used example in average condition to upwards of $500 or more for nicely preserved used examples with light cancellations. If you're lucky enough to own a mint, well-centered, never-hinged Benjamin Franklin 50-cent blue stamp, you could be looking at prices in the range of $1,000 to $5,000, depending on grading and certification. In rare cases, extremely fine-graded examples that have been certified by professional organizations can go even higher at auction, sometimes surprising the market with results over $10,000. Collectors today are also paying close attention to varieties. Minor printing variations, plate differences, and shade differences in the blue coloring can sometimes add a premium to the value. Likewise, stamps with interesting postal history, such as those found on original envelopes or packages with clear markings, rare destinations, or unique cancellations, can be worth more than the stamp by itself. Postal historians love items that tell a story, and Franklin, as the face of American postal beginnings, has a special place in that narrative. One of the biggest factors influencing today's values is certification. A certificate from a recognized authority, such as the Philatelic Foundation or the American Philatelic Society, can drastically increase a buyer's confidence. In a market that has seen its fair share of forgeries and altered stamps, buyers are willing to pay more for certified authenticity. This is particularly true for high-value stamps like the 50-cent Franklin. Now, for those thinking of selling or buying, here's some advice. If you own a Franklin 50-cent blue stamp, the first step is to carefully examine its condition, and if it looks promising, consider sending it for professional grading. If you are buying, don't rush into it. Compare auction results, study catalogs, and pay attention to centering, gum condition, and perforations. Remember, the difference between a $20 stamp and a $2,000 stamp often comes down to subtle details of quality. Looking at the broader market, Franklin stamps remain highly collectible, not only because of his historical importance, but also because these issues represent an era of American postal history when the country was rapidly expanding and modernizing. Collectors worldwide recognize the appeal of Franklin stamps, making them a truly international collectible. In today's dollar terms, they hold steady value and in high-grade conditions continue to appreciate. In conclusion, the Benjamin Franklin 50-cent blue stamp is more than just a piece of paper. It's a connection to history, a symbol of American innovation, and a reminder of Franklin's role as both a statesman and the very first Postmaster General. In today's market, whether it's a modestly priced used stamp for $50 or a pristine certified mint example worth thousands, it remains a must-have for serious collectors.
Next up, the most prominent figures in postal history, Benjamin Franklin. This time, it's the 50-cent Franklin stamp printed in a striking purple or violet shade, an issue that has intrigued collectors for decades. Not only does this stamp reflect the artistry of early 20th century American engraving, but it also carries an impressive legacy in the philatelic marketplace. Let's explore the history and the current value of this classic. The Benjamin Franklin 50-cent purple stamp was issued in the early 20th century as part of a definitive series, meaning it was not commemorative but designed for everyday use, though at a high postal rate. Like the blue 50-cent issue we discussed before, this stamp was intended for heavier letters, parcels, or registered mail. The choice of Franklin for high-value denominations speaks volumes about his lasting significance to American postal history. As the very first Postmaster General of the United States, Franklin's contributions were honored repeatedly on stamps, and his portrait became a symbol of reliability, innovation, and communication. Now, when it comes to stamp collecting, the 50-cent Franklin Purple is a gem. Its value today depends on a number of factors, but let's start with condition. Collectors know that centering is critical. A stamp with perfect margins, crisp perforations, and rich color commands a much higher price than one with off-center printing or faded ink. Similarly, gum condition plays a vital role. Mint condition, never hinged examples of this stamp can be highly valuable, while used examples, depending on their cancellation and overall condition, tend to be more affordable but still sought after. So, what is the current market value of the 50-cent Franklin Purple stamp? In today's dollars, an average used example might sell in the range of US $20 to $100, depending on the cancellation and overall freshness. Higher-grade used copies with light, attractive cancellations can climb into the US $200 to $400 range. Mint-hinged examples typically fall between $200 and $500, while mint never-hinged, well-centered, certified specimens are where the real value lies. These can range from $1,000 to $5,000 or more, especially if the centering is exceptional and the color remains bold and vibrant. The rarest, finest graded copies, particularly those graded superb by professional services, have even exceeded $10,000 at major auctions. Another factor influencing value is variety. Collectors closely examine shades of ink, printing methods, and potential plate differences. Some shades of the purple 50-cent Franklin are scarcer than others, and when identified correctly, they can carry a significant premium. Likewise, stamps found on cover, meaning still attached to the original envelope or package, can be especially valuable if they were used for rare routes, unusual destinations, or during significant historical periods. Postal historians love these pieces because they revealed the real-world journey of the stamp and the mail it carried. Certification is also key in today's stamp market. A stamp graded and certified by a reputable authority such as the Philatelic Foundation or the Professional Stamp Experts Organization gives buyers peace of mind. This is particularly important when dealing with high-grade mint examples, because the difference in value between a mint hinged and a mint never hinged Franklin 50-cent purple can be several $1,000s. Certification removes doubt and reassures collectors and investors that they're buying an authentic, properly described stamp. For collectors looking to purchase the stamp, my advice is to study recent auction results carefully. Look at centering, condition, and certification before bidding or buying. If you're selling, presentation is everything. High-quality images, detailed descriptions, and official certification can make all the difference in achieving top dollar. The purple Franklin 50-cent stamp holds a special place in American philately. It's not just about its beauty or its historical figure. It represents a time in U.S. history when the postal system was becoming more sophisticated, serving a rapidly modernizing society. For collectors today, it's a stamp that bridges history, artistry, and value, making it an absolute must-have for anyone building a serious U.S. collection. In conclusion, whether you own a modestly priced used Franklin 50-cent purple or a pristine mint never hinged example worth thousands, this stamp is a reminder of why collecting is so rewarding. Every stamp tells a story, and in Franklin's case, it's the story of communication, progress, and the early foundation of a postal service that changed the world. Thank you so much for joining me today on Stamps Old World UK. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Benjamin Franklin 50-cent purple stamp, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you have a Franklin 50-cent stamp in your collection, and have you ever had it valued? Until next time, keep exploring, keep collecting, and may your stamps always tell a story worth sharing.